गुड इवनिंग सभी को, नमस्कार। स्वागत है आपका हमारे इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर जिसका नाम है वन मार्क सॉल्यूशन। और जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि लगातार हम लोग इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे डिफरेंट सब्जेक्ट्स के डिफरेंट चैप्टर्स के साथ यहाँ पे प्रेजेंटेशन लेके आते हैं, जिनमें कि वन मार्क्स के आपके क्वेश्चंस रहते हैं, फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स, ट्रू फॉल्स, एसर्शन रीजंस के जो क्वेश्चन होते हैं जिनमें सबसे ज़्यादा आपको डाउट रहता है, वो वाले यहाँ पे क्वेश्चंस डिस्कस करे जाते हैं वन मार्क्स के। और जो आज सेशन होने वाला है वो क्लास 9th के लिए साइंस सब्जेक्ट के लिए होने वाला है। और चैप्टर है इज मैटर अराउंड अस प्योर। मैं जो भी हमारे न्यू व्यूवर्स हैं उनको मैं बोलूँगी कि आप चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए, जिससे कि आपको जो भी अपकमिंग सेशंस होंगे, वेबिनार्स होंगे, उनके अपडेट्स आपको मिलते रहेंगे। और पहले के भी जो भी सेशंस हैं जो प्लेलिस्ट में चैनल के प्लेलिस्ट में हैं, वो भी आपको देखने को मिल जाएंगे अपने क्लास से रिलेटेड, सब्जेक्ट से रिलेटेड। आप वहाँ पे जाके उनको देख सकते हैं। तो मैं आज स्टूडियो में वेलकम करती हूँ आज की जो मैं हमारे गेस्ट हैं, मैं उनका वेलकम करती हूँ मरियम फातिमा मैम का। मैं इंट्रोडक्शन दे दूँ मैम का। मैम टीजीटी साइंस है, केंद्रीय विद्यालय मानखुर्द मुंबई में। और मैम आज आपको साइंस का ये क्लास 9th के लिए इज मैटर अराउंड अस प्योर का सेशन लेने वाली हैं। 1 मार्क्स के जो क्वेश्चन हैं, और आप थ्रू आउट इस चैनल पे बने रहिए, लास्ट तक बने रहिए। लास्ट में एक फीडबैक फॉर्म शेयर किया जाएगा लाइव कमेंट बॉक्स में। अगर आप उसको फिल करते हैं तो आपको एक अटेंडेंस सर्टिफिकेट भी आपके मेल आईडी पे इशू होगा, तो आप मेल आईडी करेक्ट डालिए और चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए जो भी हमारे न्यू व्यूवर्स हैं। और मैम जैसे जैसे क्वेश्चंस बताएंगे, अगर आप लाइव कमेंट बॉक्स में उनके आंसर देते रहेंगे तो वो बहुत लाइवली लगेगा। तो मैं अभी मैम को हैंड ओवर करती हूँ। और जो हमारे कंटेंट पार्टनर हैं वो 1 क्वेश्चन एवरी टाइम है, जो कि एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट के लिए जाने जाते हैं। आप उनका इंस्टाग्राम पे भी उनका पेज फॉलो कर सकते हैं, और हमारा भी पेज आप इंस्टाग्राम पे फॉलो कर सकते हैं। तो मैं अभी मैम को हैंड ओवर करती हूँ। मैम प्लीज कैरी ऑन।
Good evening, students. Today we will be discussing 1 mark question of chapter 2 is matter around us pure of class 9th. So we will be discussing the various types of questions which are asked in 1 marks, like multiple choice question, fill in the blanks, true, false. And a very new concept which is introduced recently is assertion and reasoning. You will be given a statement of assertion and a statement of reasoning, and you have to tell whether both are correct or not. So when we'll come to that section, I'll tell you how we are going to deal with those questions. Priyanka ma'am is going to share the PowerPoint. So we'll be starting with that. And rest of the things, that is 1 mark, give one word answers, multiple choice. These you are already familiar with. Fill in the blanks, true, false. These are, you people have already been doing these questions in the lower classes as well. But the new one is reasoning and assertion. Okay. So when we'll come to that section, I'll tell you how to do those ones. So let's start. Okay. So this chapter is chapter 2 of NCERT textbook, is matter around us pure. And first we'll be starting with the multiple choice question. And the first question we start with is that a mixture can be, and your options are homogeneous, heterogeneous, both A and B, or D option is pure substance. So the answer here will be C1. That is, ma'am, you have to press yes, enter. So the answer is the third one. A mixture can be both homogeneous as well as heterogeneous. Next question is, which of the following statement is true for the pure substances? So your options are A, pure substance can contain only one kind of particles. B, pure substance may be compound or mixture. C, pure substance may have different composition throughout. Or D, pure substance can be exemplified by all elements other than liquid. So here you can see B, C and D are the wrong statement, and A is so the correct option is A, and your answer is A. Pure substance contain only one kind of particles. They have same composition throughout. Okay, so the option C is wrong because it is written different. You have to write same composition throughout. Pure substance will be a compound, but it will not be a mixture. So mixtures are not pure substances. And D option, that is, pure substance can be exemplified by all elements. And the exception that is nickel given over here is you if you eliminate that exception, the statement D also becomes correct. That is, pure substance can be exemplified by all elements. So answer is A only. Next, okay, the amount of solute present per unit volume or per unit mass of the solution or solvent is known as, and you have the option as composition of the solute, concentration of B, concentration of the solvent, C, the concentration of a solute, and D, the concentration of a solution. So you must be knowing that solution is made up of two parts, that is solute dissolved in a solvent. So here the amount of solute which will be dissolved in per unit volume of a solvent is the concentration of a solution. The answer is D, concentration of solution. Okay. Next is heterogeneous mixture in which the solute particles do not dissolve and remain suspended throughout the solvent. And the solute particles can be seen with the naked eye. So important over here is that it can be seen with the naked eye. We know that heterogeneous mixture can be of two types. Okay. And here the main point to be noted is that they can be seen with the naked eye. So it is in which case we have to find out: A, colloidal solution; B, supersaturated solution; C, sublimation; and D, suspension. So obviously the answer will be suspension. In the suspension we can see the solute with the naked eye. Otherwise, in the case of colloid, the particles are small to be seen with the naked eye. Next is tincture of iodine. So this is a solution made tincture of iodine, and it is used as an antiseptic. When you get cut or you get some bruises, tincture of iodine is applied. In earlier times, it was very popular. So this solution is made by dissolving A, iodine in potassium iodide; B, iodine in Vaseline or iodine in water; or D, iodine in alcohol. So your answer is iodine in alcohol should be the correct option. Tincture of iodine is made by dissolving iodine in alcohol. Next. Okay, so this question, two chemical species are given to you, X and Y, and they combine together to form a product which contains both X and Y. So P is made up of X and Y. Now you have been given some statements below. X and Y cannot be broken down into simpler substances by simple chemical reaction. So this is given to you that X and Y cannot be broken down into simpler substances. So which of the following concerning the species of XY is not correct? Okay, so you have to find out which is not correct, and the options given is P is a compound, X and Y are compound, X and Y are elements, P doesn't have a fixed composition. Okay, so here we have P should be X and Y will be elements, we know, because they cannot be broken down into simpler substances. The statement is already given to you in the question that they cannot be broken down into simpler substances. Okay, so they will be element, and P will be a compound which is made up of X and Y. So the correct, ma'am, please go back to the, yes, previous slide. So answer will be X and Y are compounds. X and Y can, if they would have been a compound, they could have been broken down into simpler substances. So X and Y, so the X and Y are compound is a wrong statement. Next. Now you have different types of colloids, and these are the two examples of colloid, and you have to find out which type of colloid they are. Sol and gel are the examples of which type of colloid. A, both are solid-solid colloid. So you know that in colloid there is a dispersion phase and there is a dispersion medium. Okay, so we write the dispersion phase as the first one, and the second one should be dispersion medium. So both are solid-solid colloids. That means they are saying that dispersion phase and dispersion medium are both solid. So this is the first option. Second is Sol is a solid liquid colloid, and gel is a liquid solid colloid. And C, solid sol is a solid colloid, and gel is a solid liquid colloid. D, sol is a liquid solid colloid, and gel is a solid liquid colloid. So here the correct option will be B1, that is sol is a solid liquid colloid, that is the dispersion medium is liquid and dispersion phase is solid in the case of sol. And in the gel it is quite the reverse, that is dispersion medium is solid and dispersion phase is a liquid. Next, when the liquid is spun rapidly, the denser particles are forced to the bottom and the lighter particles stay at the top. This is a principle which is used in. So you have studied various type of separating techniques in this chapter as well. So this is there are various principles on which the separating techniques are based. So this principle, that is when liquid is spun rapidly, the denser particles are forced to the bottom and the lighter particles stay at the top. This principle is used in which of the following? Centrifugation, fractional distillation, evaporation, or tunneling. So your answer will be A, that is centrifugation. Okay, in the centrifugation, the liquids are spun at a very fast speed, more than 1,000 rotation per minute, and then the lighter particle will stay on the top, and the denser particle will settle at the bottom, and this way you can separate it. Next, an alloy. So here in this chapter you have studied about the mixtures also, and the mixtures can be of two types as already discussed: homogeneous or heterogeneous mixture. So homogeneous mixture where the composition is same throughout, or heterogeneous where the composition differs. So alloy is which type of mixture? You have to find out. It is not a compound, it is not an element. You have to tell which type of mixture it is. Obviously, I've told you homogeneous or heterogeneous. And the answer is, it is a homogeneous mixture. That is your option number C. Mem, press enter. Yes, the answer is C. That is, it is a homogeneous mixture. Next. Okay. So in this chapter, you have already also studied about the types of changes, that is physical and chemical changes. And now you have to tell which type of changes are these: cooking of food and digestion of food. Okay, when we cook the food and when we have eaten the food, the process of digestion starts. So in both the cases, what type of changes are taking place? A says that both are physical process. B, both are chemical process. C, cooking is a physical process, whereas digestion is a chemical process. And D says that cooking is a chemical, whereas digestion is a physical process. Okay, and the answer here will be B, that is both are chemical process. While you cook the food changes into a different type of substance. And also while digestion of food, the complex foods are broken down into simpler types of substances. So both are the chemical processes taking place. Next. Okay, next we come to the one word type of answers. So here you will be given a question and the answers will be usually very short, that is either one word or very limited to one line answer. Okay, so again we have tincture of iodine. Now you have to tell, in the tincture of iodine you have to tell the type of solute, which is the solute and which is the solvent we are using in tincture of iodine, and the answer will be in the previous slides, we have in the multiple choice question, we have already known that iodine is dissolved in alcohol to make the tincture of iodine. Okay. So now you tell me which is the solute and which is the solvent. So solvent will be alcohol and the solute will be iodine over here. And that way the tincture of iodine is prepared. It is used as an antiseptic on bruises or cuts which you may get. Next is action of air and moisture on iron converts its appearance by changing it to its oxide. Okay, when the iron is exposed to the atmosphere, and in the atmosphere we have air, and air may contain moisture, so oxygen is there. What will happen? The iron will start changing its appearance. You know that iron is a shiny gray metal. It has a lot of luster that is, it shines. But when it is exposed to the atmosphere for a long time, it converts into oxide. Name the process and the type of change that is taking place in iron. So this change in appearance, what happens that the shiny gray metal changes into brown powder. This is rust. This is called as rust. In the case of iron, especially, it is called as rust. And what happens is the process which is this process is called as corrosion. And corrosion takes place in many metals. Okay, it is very rapidly seen in the case of iron, and because it affects our day-to-day life, because many of our articles and items are made up of iron only, which and so we observe it more than the other metals. Other metal also do show corrosion, but in different form and different types. Some may not show corrosion. There are very rare metals where, or you can say they are called as noble metals, which don't show corrosion, or the corrosion is very, very slow in them. But in the case of iron, because it affects our day-to-day life, it is studied very ex- expansively. And this is called as rusting of iron, or more commonly you say it, corrosion of metals. Okay. And this change is it's a chemical change, because the nature of the substance is changing over here. Okay, the chemical composition of the substance is changing over here. Whereas where the iron was very hard metal, it changes into powder form in the case of iron oxide or rust, which we call as rust. Okay, so the entire composition, chemical composition of iron changes. So this is a chemical change. Next is the colloid particles in a dispersion medium are always in a continuous zigzag movement. What is this movement called as? Name this movement. And this movement of the particles, the solute particles, which are always randomly moving in zigzag movement, this is called as Brownian movement. Okay, so we have the answer is Brownian movement. Ma'am, yes, the answer is Brownian movement, because named after the scientist who discovered it. Next is the phenomena. Which phenomena is depicted when you see the dust particle dancing in a beam of light coming in a closed dark room? You may have observed this, that when you are in a very dark room and there is a very small beam of light coming from some ventilator or a hole in the room. It should be a dark room, and that light beam of light is a very thin beam of light. So you will observe that the dust particles, you may observe the dust particles are moving in this zigzag movement. Okay, they seem like they are dancing in this, dancing in the air. So this phenomena is known by a special name, and it is called as Tyndall effect. The answer is Tyndall effect. You can see whenever in colloid solution, whenever you pass a beam of light, the you can observe the solute particles in it. Okay, colloid is a heterogeneous mixture or a solution. You can say it is a heterogeneous solution in which the solute particles are very small. They cannot be seen with the naked eyes, but when you pass a beam of light, they scatter this beam of light. Okay, whenever a beam of light is passed through a colloidal solution, these small solute particles, they scatter the beam of light, and that is why you can observe these particles. This is known as Tyndall effect. Next is name the two elements which are at liquid state in the room temperature. So in this pure substance, under the heading of pure substance, you will study elements and compounds in this chapter. So now you should know about various types of elements. Okay, and here the question is the two elements which are found in liquid state at room. So the answer is mercury is a metal which is a liquid at room temperature, and bromine is a non-metal which is liquid at room temperature. Next, What difference in the property of two miscible liquid enables their separation by distillation? So here also you have to tell the principle behind using distillation. When the two liquids are mixed together and they are miscible, that is completely miscible liquid. Okay, when the liquids completely mix with each other, that is, they do not form two phase but they appear as same phase, they are known as miscible liquids, completely miscible liquids. So you cannot separate them by a physical process. Sorry, you cannot separate them by using a physical apparatus, but you have to use this is also a physical separation only, but it is done by the use in the difference of their boiling point, and the process is called as distillation. It requires the change in the boiling point of the two liquids. The two liquids should have different boiling points, and depending on the difference in their boiling point, you may have different types of distillation also, simple distillation and fractional distillation, which you have studied. If the liquid have more than 25-degree difference in their boiling point, then it is, then we use simple distillation, and when it is less than 25-degree, we have to use fractional distillation. So the answer is boiling point. If there is a difference in the boiling point, we can utilize the distillation process as the separating technique. Next, a mixture consisting of two miscible liquids A and B whose boiling points differ by 5 degrees Celsius. So already we were discussing that difference of boiling point is required, but how much difference is there will it depending on that we will use the type of distillation. That is, whether we are going to use a simple distillation process or we are going to use a fractional distillation process. So here we have to tell which one we have to use. If the difference is less than 5 degrees Celsius, or it says that the differ by 5 degrees Celsius. So the process will be will be fractional distillation. Okay, if it is more than 25 degrees Celsius, we can use the simple distillation process. But here the answer should be fractional distillation. Next. Now, if camphor is kept in an open container, you all know that we can use camphor to scare away the mosquitoes also. It is used also as a mosquito repellent. So if you keep camphor in an open container, its amount keeps on decreasing. And which is the phenomena which can explain this? So you don't see any liquid surrounding it, but the camphor is in its solid form will start disappearing. It will start reducing in size. And which phenomena can be explained? Which phenomena can explain this? And the phenomena is sublimation. That is direct conversion of solid into vapor form rather than going through liquid phase and then into vapor phase. The solid goes changes directly into vapor form. The phenomena is sublimation. It is called as sublimation. And there are many other examples which you must know. That is, anthracene also shows sublimation. Naphthalene balls which you use in your house, they also show sublimation. Next, which separation technique is employed to separate complex mixture of organic compounds like carbohydrates, amino acid, vitamins, hormones, etc.? So you have to tell the separation technique over here. And the separation technique which is used for separating complex organic substances from their solution, it is called as chromatography. Okay, you can use chromatography because different solution dissolve in different concentration, and when they are allowed to run on a paper, this is a special type of paper which is used in chromatography, paper chromatography here we are using. So they will go at a different speed and they will be separating out by this method. You can separate them out by this chromatography method. Okay, because the solubility of different organic compound is different. So this technique, and the principle used over here is that the solubility of different organic compound is different. and the process is called as chromatography. Next, give some example of metalloids. So you know that pure substance can be categorized into elements and compound, and elements can be of or can be categorized as metal, non-metals. Basically, broader two categories you have studied in the lower class, that is metal and non-metal. There are few compounds in periodic table which will show the properties of metal, sometimes of metals and sometimes of non-metals, and they are called as metalloids. So you have to give some example of these elements which show the property. Sometimes they show the property of, in some properties they may show like they may behave like metal, and in some properties they behave like non-metal. So the examples are silicon, bromo, boron. Boron is a very good example. Silicon is a good example. Germanium. So you will see that they in the periodic table they lie in between the metal and non-metal. Okay, so they may show, sometimes they show the property of metal and sometimes of non-metal. They are categorized as metalloids. Next, we come to the assertion and reason. This is what we were talking about. This is a new thing which has been introduced in CBSC papers, assertion and reasoning. And here, ma'am, please go to the next slide. There will be some instructions given to you in the and you coming questions which will be based on assertion and reasoning. You will have two statements. One will be called as assertion, that is the inference which you have derived, and there will be a statement for reason, and this will give you the reason behind the assertion which we have been given. You have to read the both the statements very carefully, that is assertion and reason, and then you have to tell whether the both statements are correct or not. Ma'am, please press enter. Okay, so you will have to tell that both assertion and reason are true, and reason is the correct explanation of the assertion. For the same statement, assertion statement, a reason will be given. So if both statements are true and their reason is explaining the assertion, then you will write it as one. Or maybe A, B, C, D is given to you. Whatever is given to you, you have to mark according to that. So if at the question reason you find that assertion is correct and the reason is also correct for that assertion, you will mark it as 1 or A. And then you at second point you have been given that assertion and reason both are true, but reason is not the correct explanation for assertion. If both the statements are correct but reason which is given is not explaining the assertion properly, then you will mark it as true or B. And then if assertion is true but reason is false, if the statement of assertion is true but reason is false, then you mark it as 3 or C, whatever is given. If the reason is true but assertion is false, अगर रीजन सही है और assertion false है, then you mark it as 4 or D, whatever is given. If both assertion and reason are, अगर आपको दोनों statement wrong लगते हैं, then you'll have to mark it as 5, that is 5 or E, whatever will be given to you. So sometimes even in these options 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, instead of 5 you may be given 4. So read out the instructions which are given to you very properly. Okay, all the statements which are given to you, and in the instructions also, whatever instructions are given to you, you have to read out properly. Here I have taken as 5 points. Sometimes maybe they will give you only 4 points. So read it out carefully and then answer your question. Ma'am, next. So here, let's see. The first assertion is given is aluminum foils are used for packing food items like biscuits, chocolate, medicine, cigarettes, etc. And the reason given is that aluminium can be beaten into thin sheets due to its high malleability. Okay, you know that metals are malleable, and among them, aluminium is quite malleable, that it can be beaten into thin sheets, and it is cheaper than other metals which are very malleable. So even other metals are quite malleable, but it is the one which is not very reactive. It is the one which is quite malleable, and you can wrap your food items in it. So here the assertion is true and the reason is also true. So you will mark it as 1. Both assertion and reason are true, and the reason is the correct explanation of assertion. Next. Assertion given is that a true solution like sugar solution easily scatters light rays falling on them. And the reason is a true solution, the solid particles are very small. So you will see here that assertion itself is wrong. Assertion is wrong. Reason, the statement in the reason is correct. That a true solution, the solid particles are very, very small. They cannot be seen with the naked eye. अगर सोल्यूशन के पार्टिकल्स बहुत स्मॉल होते हैं तो वो ट्रू सोल्यूशन होता है जो कंप्लीटली डिसॉल्व हो जाता है सॉल्वेंट में और it cannot scatter a beam of light, which is called as Tyndall effect. And I told you that Tyndall effect is seen mostly in the case of colloidal solution, not in the case of true solution. So assertion is wrong, reason is correct. So you remark it as state 4. That is, reason is true, but assertion is false. Then you have assertion colloids are heterogeneous in nature, though they appear to be homogeneous. And the reason given is the particle of most colloid can be seen with a microscope. So here you see that assertion is correct. Colloids are heterogeneous. Okay, colloid solutions are heterogeneous in nature, though they appear to be homogeneous. Because colloid के particles sometimes they are very very small, and so they sometimes they appear to be homogeneous. So the answer here will be which statement you will give? That is, both assertion and reason are true, but reason is not the correct explanation of assertion. The reason given is the particle of most colloid can be seen with the microscope. So you cannot see the uh, colloid particle, the solute particles in the colloid with naked eye. But you can see sometimes you can see it with a microscope if the size is big enough. Sometimes even even the colloid particles are very small. It may not be observed under microscope, but in many cases we can see it with the help of microscope. So here the in the reason statement it is given most of the colloid, not all. Okay, most of the colloids we can see with the help of a microscope. Here the statement for assertion and reason both are correct, but it is not the correct explanation. Okay, next statement is the process assertion. The process of centrifugation is used in dairies to separate creams from milk. Okay, you have been given a statement that the process of centrifugation is used in dairies to separate cream for milk. This is a true statement, we know. The reason given is that the principle of centrifugation is difference in the melting point. And we know that the principle in centrifugation is that if we spun the solution very rapidly at a rotation more than 1000 rotation per minute, then what will happen? The denser particle will settle down, whereas a lighter particle will float on the top. That is the principle which is used in centrifugation and not the difference in the boiling point. So here we will be saying that the statement which is 3, that is assertion is true, but the reason is a false statement. Next. Assertion given is pure substance can be exemplified by all solutions, colloids and suspension. If you have to give the example of pure substance, you can give examples of solutions, colloids and suspension. So you know this statement is wrong itself. So here only you first come to the conclusion that assertion is wrong. Reason given is pure substances may be mixture in any composition. So this statement is also wrong. So you will be giving the answer as 5. The statement for 5, that is both assertion and reason are false. Okay, both assertion and reason are false statement. Next, assertion given is that acetone and alcohol do not mix together in all proportion. And the reason given is acetone and alcohol are miscible liquid and form a single layer. So the statement for assertion is contradicting the reason here. And now you have to tell, you can see that this is contradicting. पहले स्टेटमेंट assertion में बोल रहा है they do not mix together, and reason में बोल रहा है acetone and alcohol are miscible liquid and they form a single layer. So first you have to find out which is correct. So here the reason is correct. Acetone and alcohol are miscible liquid and they will form a single layer. They will form a single layer when you acetone and alcohol are mixed together. They are miscible liquid. So reason statement for reason is true and the assertion is a wrong statement. So you will give as option number 4. That is reason is true but assertion is false. Next, assertion. A mixture of sulfur and carbon sulfide does not show Tyndall effect. Okay, when you mix sulfur and carbon dioxide and carbon disulfide, they will not show Tyndall effect. And the reason given is sulfur dissolves completely in carbon disulfide. So it forms a true solution. And the answer will be the assertion is true. That is, अगर हम सल्फर में कार्बन डाइसल्फाइड मिक्स करते हैं तो क्या होता है, एक ट्रू सोल्यूशन बन जाता है, बिकॉज इट इज बोथ आर कंप्लीटली both get completely dissolved. So what happens if true solution gets formed? Then the particles are completely dissolving, so they will not scatter any light. Okay, if the size of the particles are smaller than 5 nanometer, then it will not show Tyndall effect, and which is seen in the case of this. So it is forming a true solution. Both assertion and reason are correct. Next is assertion is that an element cannot split up into two or more simpler substances. This is true. A pure substance, for example, in pure substances, elements cannot be broken down into any further simpler substances, whereas you can break down a compound into simpler substances, but elements cannot be broken down in any more further into two simpler substances. The reason given is an element is only made up of one kind of molecule. Okay, so molecule here, the word molecule, if we replace it by atom, then it will be correct. But here, because molecule is written and molecules we know is made up of atoms, so we can break molecules into atom. Therefore, this reason is wrong. The assertion is correct that an element cannot split up into two or more simpler substances, and the reason for that will be because element is only made up of one kind of atom. An atom cannot divide further. Okay, so here the assertion is true, but the reason is false. Next statement. Okay, the assertion given is that iron sulfide is a mixture. Okay, and the reason given is it has a fixed melting point, boiling point, etc. That means it is a mixture. So first of all, we should know that iron sulfide is a compound. It is made by heating iron with sulfur. When you heat iron with sulfur, the compound form is iron sulfide. So assertion is wrong. Reason given is it has a fixed melting and boiling point. That means it is a mixture. So mixture doesn't have a fixed melting point and boiling point. Okay, in mixture you will not have, because the composition may be different, and then the melting point and boiling point may also differ depending on the type of mixture. So therefore, the option will be fifth one, that is both assertion and reason are false. Next. Assertion given is that a mixture of common salt and water can be separated completely by the process of distillation. Okay, so mixture of common salt or water को हम separate कर सकते हैं by the process of distillation. This is your assertion, and the reason given is pure water or distilled water is made from tap water by the process of distillation. So here you see that the both statement are correct. Assertion is also correct and reason is also correct statement. But the reason is not explaining the assertion. The reason for the assertion is not explaining it properly. Therefore, Therefore, you will mark it as 2, second option. That is, both assertion and reason are true, but reason is not the correct explanation of assertion. Next, we have fill in the blanks. Okay, the statement given is properties of a dash are different from its constituent elements. So constituent elements मिलके क्या बनाते हैं, पहले तो हमें ये पता होगा, तो हम वो that is what we have to fill over there. If we combine two elements, a compound will be formed. So properties of a compound is different from its constituent element. Whereas a dash show the properties of its constituent element. तो अगर different property आपको दो चीजें आपने सिर्फ mix की and it is forming a mixture simply, then you will not then you can see the properties of both the elements in the mixture. But when we are combining both the elements in such a way that they form a new compound, new substance, then it is a compound. So in the case of compound, you will not observe the properties of its constituent element, whereas in mixture you can find the properties of both the elements in the newly formed mixture, which you have mixed just simply by a physical process. Next is a mixture contains more than dash substance in mixed in dash proportion. So mixture में हम दो, at least more than two, more than one, sorry, more than one, at least there should be two substances to form a mixture. So mixture will contain more than one substance. Okay. And they will be mixed in any proportion. There is no definite proportion in the case of mixture. Whereas when you have a compound, you have a definite proportion of those two elements, those two substances. Okay, so answer will be a mixture contain more than one substance and mixed in any proportion. No definite proportion. Okay, any proportion you have to write. Or you can write no definite also. No definite proportion. So next is a pure substance has a fixed dash or dash at a constant temperature. अगर pure substance है तो उसका क्या fix होगा? It will have a fixed melting point and boiling point at a constant temperature. Ma'am, answer. Okay. So हमारा pure substances fixed melting point or boiling point दिखाते हैं. It is in the case of pure substances only, not in the case of mixture. Next, a solution is defined as a mixture that is dash in composition. Now, solution, true solution जो होता है, उसका composition homogeneous होता है. Homogeneous means it is same throughout. Wherever you are taking a part of that composition, it will be same. So we call it as homogeneous. Homo means same. So the answer is homogeneous in composition. Next, an element is made up of only one kind of atoms. Okay, there will be many atoms combined together to form an element, but this many atoms will be of one kind only. Okay, so an element cannot be further divided into simpler parts because simpler substances, you can say it, you can have an atom of it participating in a reaction, but that you cannot break it into a simpler substances. Here the atoms combine to form element, same types of atom. Next, filtered tea is a dash mixture. Okay, when we are preparing the tea, we are mixing many things together, which will form a heterogeneous mixture. But when we filter it out, the mixture will be homogeneous. So here it is a homogeneous mixture. Okay, because wherever if you pour it into 5 different cups, all different cups will have same type of composition. Next is immiscible liquids are separated by using a, and you have to tell the name of the apparatus, and the name of the apparatus is separating funnel. because these two immiscible liquid means which are not forming a single layer. They have two different, or they have two separate layer when they are mixed together and they are left for a considerable period of time. They form two different layers, and these two different layer can be separated by using a separating funnel. We can remove dyes from a black ink. Okay, black ink is a composition of different dyes mixed together. So you can separate these dyes by using the process separating, which separating technique we are going to use, that you have to write in the answer, and the answer will be evaporation. You can separate the dye from the black ink by evaporation. Then next is sublimation of camphor is a, okay, when the camphor changes from solid state directly into vapor state, and the change in the state is just a physical process, it is not a chemical process. So here it is a physical change. It is changing only in the state, in its state, from directly from solid to vapor state, not going through the liquid state. Most common chemical change we observe in our routine life is dash of iron. As I've told you, because this is a very extensive change which we see in a daily life, is that iron getting rusted. So rusting of iron is a very common example of chemical change which we see in our day-to-day life, which we can observe and which we can feel also, because you know that iron is a hard metal, whereas when it changes into iron oxide or rust, it becomes a powder, and it is very, then it becomes very weak. If it is used as iron, it is a hard metal, whereas in its oxide form it is a soft powder. Next we come to true and false. First statement: a substance is always homogeneous. So this is a false statement. A substance may be homogeneous or a heterogeneous. We have to tell whether this is a pure substance or not a pure substance. If it is not a pure substance, it will not be homogeneous. Next, in compound, elements combine in definite proportion. When you are forming a compound, the elements will combine in a definite proportion. That is the difference between compound and mixture. So the statement is true. In the compound, elements will always combine in a definite proportion, whereas when you are forming a mixture, elements may combine in any proportion. Okay, so this is state in compound, elements combine in a definite proportion is true. Then next statement, all mixtures are defined as heterogeneous. So this is false. Sometimes the mixtures are homogeneous in nature if the composition is same throughout the mixture. अगर मिक्सचर हम बना रहे हैं और उसमें composition same होता है throughout, it may be termed as a homogeneous mixture. Like you see in the case of alloys, alloys are a very good example of homogeneous mixture. So all mixture may not be heterogeneous. The statement is false. Next statement is, we can separate all mixture by filtration. Is it possible that we separate all the mixtures by just by a technique of filtration? It is a wrong statement. It is false. We cannot separate all mixture by simply by filtration process. We have read many different separating techniques, and different principles are used behind each separating technique. Next. Ma'am, next. Impure salt mixtures can be obtained in pure form by the process of crystallization. So this statement is true. There are some salts which can form crystals. and if they are in impure state, that means other salts are mixed with them, we can separate them by using this process which is called as crystallization, which we very beautifully seen in the case of copper sulfate. So yes, we can separate salt by and we can obtain very pure forms, because this crystallization is shown by some of the salt solution, so they will come out in a very pure form. This is a true statement. Next, brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. This is true. And it is a homogeneous mixture, because as I told you earlier, alloys are homogeneous mixture, and brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. So this is a true statement. Answer is true. Next is a solution in which more solute can be dissolved at that temperature is called a saturated solution. The solution in which more solute can be dissolved at any temperature is called a saturated solution? No. When the solution becomes saturated, then you cannot dissolve. So the statement should be a solution in which no more solute can be dissolved. When you can dissolve more solute, then it is called as unsaturated solution. So you can correct the statement either by replacing saturated by unsaturated, or by adding no more. So this statement is false. Next, elements can be classified as metals, non-metals, and also metalloids. So I told you the pure substances we have been categorizing into two types, elements and compound. In the case of elements, we can further classify them into metals, non-metals, and metalloid. The statement is true. Next, no pure elements are liquid at room temperature. Answer for this has already been told to you, that there are some elements which are liquid at room temperature, like mercury in metals. Mercury is an example, and in non-metals, bromine is an example. These two elements are liquid at room temperature. And then the last slide is metals allow heat and electricity to pass through them easily. So if you have studied the properties of metal properly, then you will know that metals allow heat and electricity to pass through them. This is a true statement, and that is why metals are called as good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, and this property of metal is utilized in making pans, utensils, iron, all these cases. So with this, we come to the end of our slide. I'll hand over now to Priyanka ma'am. I hope all of you will participate in the quiz which will be given to you and give the answers. You will get a participation certificate also. Even if you don't perform well, you will get a participation certificate, isn't it, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. If they fill the form, they will get only 40%. They will, if they will qualify on 40% mark, they will get certificate in their mail ID.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your valuable time and sharing this very useful content with our students. And they are telling
Thank you.
that ma'am class 8th के लिए भी कुछ सेशन लाई, और कोई तो बच्चा था जिसको बोला था मैम हिंदी में एक्सप्लेन करिए. ओके.
Actually, why I explain in English is because you have to answer in English,
हाँ,
and
yes.
their question paper is always in English. So if you are not in the habit of listening to English and understanding in English, anyways you are not going to be able to understand your paper. So it is better if you try and understand, pay more attention, and be more concentrated. Then you will be able to understand. And it is better that you learn in English, because the paper till class 9th will always be in English only.
थैंक यू सो मच मैम. और मैं व्यूवर्स को बता दूं, जो बच्चे हमारे देख रहे हैं, जिन्होंने आज न्यू ज्वाइन किया है, आप लाइव कमेंट बॉक्स में शेयर किया गया है फीडबैक फॉर्म, आप उसको फिल कर दीजिए, जिससे कि आपको अटेंडेंस सर्टिफिकेट आपके मेल आईडी पे इशू हो जाए. और थैंक यू सो मच मैम. और मैम का फर्स्ट जनवरी को भी 9th क्लास के लिए, मैम विच चैप्टर?
The third chapter, the chapter after this, next chapter is atoms and molecules, and we'll be discussing the one mark questions from chapter 3, atoms and
Okay,
molecules.
at same time, 4 to 5, at same time, we had
Yes.
session on 1st January. ओके, थैंक यू सो मच
Yes.
मैम एंड
ये pleasure was
मैं रिक्वेस्ट कर
to Priyanka.
हाँ, वेलकम मैम। थैंक यू सो मच मैम और मैं व्यूअर्स को रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए जिससे कि आपको जो भी अपकमिंग जो भी आपके वेबिनार्स होंगे वो उनके अपडेट्स आपको मिलते रहेंगे। थैंक यू सो मच।